So on TikTok and YouTube, I get asked pretty regularly if radial arm saws live up to their reputation of being body maiming death traps. I've answered it quite a lot, but honestly, it's a little bit of a nuanced answer because the reputation is not necessarily unwarranted, but it's mostly due to operator error or doing things that the machine technically is designed to do, but really weren't well thought out concepts and should not be applied in the shop. So the first big mistake people make with these blades, especially since they're 10-inch blades, which means they're technically interchangeable with the blades you have for most table saws, is that these blades have to be a negative hook blade. And in fact, the one I currently have in here specifically says on it, it's not only for radial arm saws, but for sliding miters, because the same principle is going to apply to a sliding miter. And that is just because this is a climbing cut, which means the blade is spinning in the same direction that you are making the cut. So the blade is spinning towards you, you're also pulling this towards you. And that has a tendency for this to want to catch and lurch forward like this. Anyone who has ever used one of these before has experienced that situation. It is definitely a pants wetting situation. Situation of this saw lurching towards you can be mitigated by using the right blade, but it can also be amplified severely by putting the wrong blade in there. Now, admittedly, I know about this situation because I have put in a bind a table saw blade in here, and while it's not something that's going to necessarily automatically chop all your fingers off, it does make that lurching motion more prominent. So when I say negative hook blade, what I'm talking about is the angle of all the teeth on the saw are actually angled backwards. I forget the degree of this one, but it has to obviously be less than 0 degrees. So what that creates is a situation where these teeth are not removing as much material as the blades you commonly see in your table saw. And if the blade is not removing as much material, it's a less aggressive cut, and it makes it so it doesn't want to lurch towards you. For comparison purposes, if I put a table saw blade in here, you can see how much more those teeth are angled forward, which makes that cut more aggressive, makes it remove more material. So kind of side by side, you can see, if I line it up somewhat properly, the difference in the angle of all of those teeth on these saw blades. So that's going to be number one, buying and keeping the right blade in your saw. So I got this, and I'm assuming most people are going to get theirs secondhand. It came without a manual, so if you just find the model number, which is on the top side of most of these, you can find this manual online, and that is going to help you out a lot. And in this manual is where you're going to find the second problem, and that is that this carriage not only commonly can be pulled forward and backward, but this whole mechanism, and I could show you that once in a minute, tilts forward. This whole arm also swings all the way this way and all the way that way. So these were marketed as kind of like an all-in-one tool, not just cross-cutting, but you can also rip on it. So going through the manual, and you get to standard operating procedures, cross-cutting, pretty straightforward. And then after that is when you get into the scary stuff like ripping, turning the blade and ripping boards. Tilting the blade's not terrible, but some of these other applications like the dado stack, horizontal, and running boards through it, you can see you're just pressing your fingers way too close to the blade. Same thing with this one. Boring. A lot of this stuff I haven't done because I just have tools that do all of this, but that is the second problem. A lot of the applications that this were intended for were not necessarily well thought out, and they're dangerous applications. I would say the main one of those that I would never try on here, even attempt to do, is going to be ripping boards. So these machines are going to have a lot of knobs and bells and whistles on them, and the reason all of those are there is because this carriage can pivot in just about every direction. These requires you to lift this indexing pin and shift the whole carriage to the back. Then it's still moving, so you can lock it in place. And the ideal is you get behind it and rip boards going this way. The problem with that is the blade is spinning towards you still, and it can shoot your material back at you or back at the wall. So then once again, with a series of levers and knobs, you can adjust this blade again downwards. And the theory behind this was you could lock it by the fence, put a dado stack in here, or there's even shaper bits for these, and then run your pieces along the fence. So as you could see, it was just a tool that they were trying to get to do everything, and a lot of the applications are just not safe. So this saw came with a molding head, a sanding disc, which would probably work, but I just haven't tried it, and a dado stack, and I do use a dado stack in here. Another problem with all these adjustments is, even though these indexing pins are set to 90s and 45s, the problem is just moving this stuff around all the time. I'm going to have to realign this after filming this video because it never goes, especially since it's so old. There's wear and tear on all these parts. It never goes back perfectly, so changing it can just be a pain, let alone dangerous. Now the one feature I do use on here a lot is this ability to raise and lower the blade. It's perfect for cutting dados, it's perfect for cutting tenons. I use it almost on every project for that application. And then lastly, for the person who asked me why have a radial over a sliding or vice versa, for myself and my shop, I worked solely with a radial for the longest time. You can see from the fence I have set up. You can see from the fence I have set up that this will give me at about a 16-inch cut. So even up to like a 30-inch panel I could cut on here because I have this dialed in enough that I could cut 15 inches, flip my panel over and cut it again because I have a nice wide board set up. So all of my main cross cutting, if I put a dado stack in here, which makes cutting dados on longer panels much safer than if on the table saw, especially if you don't have one of those sliding saws. The main reason I got this is because I started to do more off-site work, and for trim work, this is a superior machine. That's where this shines.